Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and it's that time of the week. We get to take a look at the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves. Let's check them out. Alright, we're starting out the week with our next exclusive. This is an RMJ Tactical Utsidihi fixed blade, and this comes in at $235, and we've got our exclusive Tiger Stripe orange and black G10 handles on this guy. Really cool knife. This is, of course, the drop point version, as you can see just from the photo here, as opposed to the more modified Wharncliffe shape. But as such, might be a little more well-rounded for some people than the more utilitarian Wharncliffe. You've got about 3.5 inches of blade length there, Nitro V stainless in this case. Good, nice, tough working stainless steel with a Cerakote finish on it as well. You don't see too much of the like the signature milling lines that sometimes RMJ's stuff will have. You got a little bit of a smoother coating there, or a smoother surface there for your slicing. Edge itself there, a little bit thicker, maybe made to withstand some heavier uses rather than going with like a super fine edge, which I think is great. In addition to daily utility, I think this would make a great small companion knife in the outdoors, great small hunting knife, of course, as well, because you got that nice sweep to the belly there and a lot of grip from that handle there. I can fit all 4 of my fingers on it, no problem. And you've got a kind of a mountain tread finish on it that gives you a bit more grip. It's not as comfortable maybe as a completely smooth handle, but it's not necessarily that uncomfortable either. And like I said, you're certainly going to get the traction benefits from it. We've also got the hollow rivets if you needed to do some of that lashing stuff. And the sheath here itself, it's Kydex, and I think definitely shows that they're intending this for everyday carry with this this horizontal carry setup going on. You can carry this cross draw or small your back, however you like. You've got the 2 straps there with a pull the dot snap on it. So if you're walking by and if you happen to snag one of these, it's not really going to come undone. You have to lift it in just the right direction for that to disengage. But if you're not a, pardon me while I put it back on, there we go. If you're not a strap person like this, the rivets in here are going to be compatible with both a large and a small tech lock, so you can carry that in a number of different configurations attached to all kinds of different bits of your gear at the same time. All right, we're going to stick with some of the heavier duty stuff here at the top of the video with a new variant of the ZT308. Of course, now with their signature Tiger Stripe finish, this one comes in about $320 right now. And I think if as much as anything in the lineup, the 308 these days is kind of the overbuilt essence of zero tolerance knives and what made them has made them famous over the years. So it was only a matter of time before you got their Tiger Stripe on it. A little bit different though than Tiger Stripe finishes in the past, which had sort of a not necessarily a painted finish, but an applied finish. Whereas this guy right here, the base black layer is actually their black washed finish, their black stone washed finish. And I guess they come in and kind of bead blast the other areas just a little bit to give you that Tiger Stripe look without actually having a coating on this blade. So that is a pretty cool kind of step forward, or a pretty cool evolution for that finish of theirs. Still a 20 CV blade, still about 3.75 inches long with that big old drop point. Plenty of length there to work with. Nice meaty handle. You got black G10 on the front as opposed to the tan G10 of before, and black titanium on the back as well. Oversized pivot. You can actually adjust that with a regular wrench. I think it's a half-inch wrench if I'm remembering correctly. Thomas might have some old footage of that for us. But yeah, it's still just a lot of knifeage coming in. American made, bit over 300 bucks. Definitely a solid feel in the hand. I really like that finish too. All right, next up in the big and burly category, although not quite as much as you might think, is the new A15 Slimline from Hoback, coming in $575 right now. And Slimline because this is a bit slimmer than the Hoback we had a couple weeks ago, the Goliath I think it was called. They had really chunky handles. This has another kind of impressive profile from the side. Same kind of blade length as that ZT, but the handle's a little bit longer, but it's not going to carry too bulkily, thanks to it being a little slimmer in the pocket as well. Blade steel here, 3 3/4, 20 CV, but of course you've got the Tanto profile as opposed to the drop point on that ZT we just looked at. And a very aggressive feel in the hand. Titanium on the back, micarta on the front, but it orients the blade down, like tip down. It's ready to point exactly where you're going, and you've got this big, oversized guard from the flipper tab here. It's definitely not a subtle flipper tab there. A lot of protection against forward slippage if you're really getting down and dirty with a knife like this. Folds up pretty nicely. Again, not too wide in the pocket, despite it being, having some pretty dramatic dimensions when open. Not as dramatic when it's closed, so not too bad there at all. Roller bearings pivot thrust bearings on the Hoback roller detent. Good flipping action is all that means in layman's terms. And yeah, definitely a really cool piece and definitely more EDC friendly than the other Hoback we looked at before that definitely had a different mission profile than this guy. So very cool knife. All right, so after a couple of more expensive things here at the front, let's bring it back down into the everyman's realm of affordability with another tactical inspired knife, another Tanto, but much more affordable. The new CIVIVI Brazen Tantos are here, ringing in under 50 bucks right now. This is, I believe, also the first Tanto in CIVIVI's lineup. So they didn't stray too far from kind of their successful formula from other knives to make this particular knife. You've still got G10 handles, really cool red, dark red here in this case. Just standard liners with a liner lock, not inset, and a deep carry pocket clip, which is reversible for either side, but not flush mounted, but they do use flush head screws on the outside, so not too much sticking up. So that's, and then ball bearings in the pivot. So the handle is the same story as you're used to seeing from CIVIVI, but that's great because it's one of those combinations, and they do it really well that it just works. And again, D2 blade steel here as well, like a lot of their other stuff just now with this cool Tanto profile, about 3.5 inches. You've got flipper action or thumb stud action, whichever you prefer. Thumb studs work pretty good. Flipper works pretty good too, but you already knew that was going to be the case. A couple different finishes of this available right now. There's a purple, I'm taking a look here, black with a black blade, and purple with a satin blade. We might have a couple others too. Hang on, let me click a link real quick. That's it for right now, but there are always more variants coming from CIVIVI because it's CIVIVI, that's what they do. We've also got the new Riffle from them this week. Again, plenty of variations here. I'm just going to show two. We've got a green micarta here. Now, apart from the switch to micarta, it's still the same CIVIVI greatest hits. You've got the ball bearings, the liner lock, the deep carry pocket clip. You've actually even got a hidden lanyard point here, which not all of their other knives do. Blade length, 3.5 inches, but in this case, they're going with a 14C28N Sandvik steel, which is, I'm a really big fan of that steel. Even though it is considered by most people to be a more budget-friendly steel, I think it's actually pretty darn great. Takes a nice fine edge very nicely, hones real easily, and especially on a knife like this with a very thin edge, it's going to cut extremely well, and the toughness you get from this steel, which is pretty high for a standard stainless, is going to come in really handy with that thin edge right there. I think it's just a really great choice, and I'm happy to see more companies using it, especially on a knife like this that costs just over 55 bucks right now. Again, flipping action, no brainer. It's nice and good. You can also do the thumb flick or the middle finger flick as I fumble it there, but it works pretty nicely in that regard as well. I think my favorite though is the Damascus blade version, which comes with a sandalwood handle. And I saw this when they sent us a few samples when we did our interview with them earlier this year on their new products, and this guy has been in my mind since then. You've got a really nicely patterned Damascus. They're darkening them a little more than they used to on some of their older models, so you get a nice pop from the layers. And it's a 9CR based Damascus, so roughly 440C levels of performance. And so you got this really kind of busy, active blade pattern, and that contrasts nicely with the slightly more strained wood grain and that nice kind of reddish color from that wood. Just a really classy, cool looking combo. We've also got some new knives from Knife Company, which is of course CIVIVI's parent company. We've got the Fornix flipper, 2 different versions of them. You got the black one here and a gray option as well, coming in just under 200. And these actually are limited pieces out of 140, I believe, or sorry, 410. I don't have dyslexia, you have dyslexia. And they're serialized as well. This one is number 143 right here. But let me tell you about the specs. Apart from it having just a pretty cool looking profile, you've got 20 CV blade steel, 3.5 inches with that harpoon tip there, and titanium frame lock flipper with all the trimmings, deep carry pocket clip, reversible ball bearing pivot, little lock bar insert there as well. Also, multiple opening methods. You got the flipper, which works quite nicely, and you've got that broad cutout in the blade itself. And I've been trying to practice and get better at my middle finger flicks for you folks in the video, and this one, I'm kind of getting it on this guy. But of course you can do the thumb flick easily enough as well. I like the blade shape. You got pretty much a full flat grind there, or sorry, not so much a full flat grind. You can kind of see the edge of the shoulder right here. It kind of rides just above where that blade cutout stops there at the bottom. So that'll give you an idea of the kind of geometry you're getting. The harpoon tip is surprisingly fitted to my hands, or at least it feels that way. I can choke up really nicely there behind the tip with my index finger if I'm doing some scoring or tip work like that. That feels actually very secure, kind of pressing into that just a little bit. Not so much bringing my thumb out there, it's kind of too far and away for that. But you do also have that, what's it called? The choil there at the front. You could choke up if your hands are a little smaller than mine. You might be able to use your middle finger there to get to that choked up point if you want. But overall, just another kind of epitome of the titanium frame lock flipper from Knife Company with a little bit different of a blade shape and that limited quality to it as well. All right, next up we've got an itty bitty fixed blade from as I pick it up very carefully. This is the OSS Dagger, Justin Lundquist design, and these guys come in about 89 bucks right now. And for that, you've got a 20 CV blade, stone washed, double edged in this case. And you can see the 2 bevels here on the front. The back itself is actually completely flat, so essentially each one of these sharpened sides kind of has a chisel grind on the other side in a way. A single piece handle. It combines with the steel itself with a layer of G10 there from the back. And I'm guessing this is actually epoxied in, and the thumb pad right here is actually bits of the G10 sticking up. They've actually milled that out, or milled down into it to produce these ridges so that it interlocks with the 20 CV right there. Certainly gives you a bit of traction there on the thumb pad, because otherwise there's not a whole heck of a lot to keep you from sliding forward. But again, this is sort of considered a last ditch type of knife. This is not necessarily going to be that useful of an EDC, I would guess. Some of you, of course, probably would have some uses for it, but probably a little more niche in that regard. There are a few different colors of G10 that you could get. This is just the black, but you've got some brighter colors like orange. I think there's a blue, some greens, and there's actually an all blacked out version as well if you want to go the opposite direction of that. But it's nicely made, as you'd expect. The seams between the G10 and the steel here are spot on, no real gaps to speak of. A little bit of contour to the top of the steel as well. Actually a lot going on there, milling or grind wise on that blade. It does have a small Kydex sheath right here, as you can see. You've got a small dots style clip here on the back, one of the smaller varieties, and you can carry that vertical or horizontal. And if you want something different, you could attach a small tech lock to this sheath if that was your thing. We've also got some new versions of the Banter this week. 2 new colorways. There's the green here that you can see with the satin blade. It's kind of a stone wash, just a bare little bit. And that comes with a nice gold pivot or a gold thumb stud, which I really like. There's also a gray G10 version, which is a little flatter, a little plainer. Might be a little more incognito for some folks out there. Would also make a really good platform for folks who like to take their knives and writ dye them different colors. That's going to give you a good base to work with. But just like the other versions, this still comes in at a decently affordable $108.80 right now with an S35VN blade. just under 3 inches, so you can take it most places, and a fairly broad handle made out of G10 for its short length overall. So it's only about a 3.5 finger grip for me, but you can get a nice solid hold on it, no problem. You got that deep carry pocket clip for the right side only, which is going to carry nicely, but this is also a great 5th pocket jeans carry, just on the larger side of what I would consider 5th pocket compatible. You know, your mileage may vary, of course. You may have a smaller or even larger 5th pocket, but a nice candidate there because it's wide enough, sits or is nice and flat as well when folded up, and it just works. Has some nice flipping action, and it's just a solid little spear point blade. We've also got some new variants of some CIVIVIs this week, and as well as just some of the new stuff we saw earlier. A couple new variants of the Badlands Vagabond. Blue and black handles now available with a satin blade for the first time, and these do come with a 9CR based satin, or a 9CR steel, so again roughly 440C. And for these versions with the standard 9CR blade with the colored FRN handles, just about 40 bucks. And I've got a real hard time not recommending this model to folks as kind of one of the top first knife choices out there, because you've got a great set of materials, you've got a great price, you've got the stainless steel as opposed to most of the D2s that you're seeing from CIVIVI and other brands in this price range. This is going to be a little bit easier to sharpen for beginners or for folks who just don't want to mess with D2 all the time. You've also got a nice neutral handle shape on these guys, so if you've got larger hands, you can hang off the back without it being too uncomfortable. Folds up nice and easy. You got the ball bearings in the pivot. Like I said, the big difference between this and some of the $50 CIVIVIs out there is you swapped to FRN as opposed to G10. Certain things, I think that's actually kind of worth it. Really nice blade shape, really nice action, and a really good price. But if you want to step up the ladder a bit, we've now got a Damascus version. Again, 9CR Damascus, so you're not going to get any real change in performance between these two. The upgrade here is more aesthetic, and it's going to cost you some dollars, just about 89 right now for this guy. Really cool Damascus pattern. Like I said, they get it to pop nice and intense now, and full G10 handles here. This isn't a G10 with a, or I said full G10?
Fiber. Yeah.
Thank you. I caught myself right before Thomas could. Full carbon fiber handles. This is not a G10 base with just like a carbon fiber laminated layer on top. Full carbon fiber, you can see it peeking out from the inside. Just a really cool look. Not quite my bag. It is maybe a little bit busy, but for those of you who are into carbon fiber and are into Damascus, these things are really cool. All right, moving on to another Damascus blade that is definitely a higher end piece, the much coveted and much sought after Malibu. And we have very few of these right now. These should be going live on our site right about the same time this video goes up, but we don't have a ton right now of this special version. So if you click the link in the description and it says discontinued, I do apologize, but I had to show it. Just look how cool that is. This is one of the more expensive variants. This is it's either coming in at $625 or $675. I don't have a page to look at myself just yet, but switch to a full titanium construction as opposed to the aluminum of the base models. And in addition to that, you've got some contouring. This is not a flat scale. You've got that radius there, and you've got these milling lines on it to give it a bit of texture, and of course this cool blue look as well. This guy also has a carbon fiber backspacer as opposed to the integrated backspacer from the two halves of the aluminum model. You actually give up the lanyard hole as a result of that. No great loss as far as I'm concerned, but to some folks it might. And of course, deep carry pocket clip, polished in this case. And the blade, in this case, we've got a Nichols Damascus. So I believe that's an AEBL based Damascus if I'm remembering, but it certainly looks real cool, made in the US as well. And a really nice inlay on the button lock there itself. Looks like mother of pearl to me. And one of those details that we don't really get to show off in photos, the insides of the titanium here are jeweled as well. So you've got a little bit of extra visual flair and interest coming from inside the knife. It's not super over the top. It's a subtle detail, but it's definitely an appreciated one. Feels a little bit better in the hand thanks to that contouring. Just has a really full feeling grip. And of course, that famous Malibu action that we all know and love. It's a winner for sure, and I really like it, and I wish I could afford it myself as well. All right, next up, we've got a couple new Kizers. The first is the VK1 coming in about $179. This is a design by Electro and Steven Kempa of Vulpex Knives. Pretty cool thing going on here. They did a trick here at the back of the pivot where you essentially, well, you can see it. It's just a big cutaway leading aft. And what that does is it gives the effect of making the blade look visually a little bit longer than it is. And that kind of does something to balance out the proportions of this a little bit in a pretty neat way. And that blade itself is S35VN, about 3.4 inches, measured from tip to scale there. And it's a modified, or pretty much not modified, an actual Wharncliffe profile with an almost perfectly straight edge. I guess there is just a tiny hint of belly going on there. But you got a very acute tip, crowned spine here, kind of from right here at the top of the grind forward. So you've got that smooth bit there, and it's a little flatter here towards the back. No thumb studs here. This is a titanium frame lock flipper, but you do have a kind of a copper inlay where a thumb stud might be normally, although there is no one here normally, and it does go through both sides, as you can see. Well, I assume that goes through both sides. It may be an inlay on each side, though. I'm not actually sure on that. But titanium frame, some milling lines as well, a bit of contour, nice broad milled clip here, nice and long, and pretty good flipping action. But one thing you do have to watch out for, because of that kind of visual trick that they pulled off that I showed earlier, and the fact that they have kind of embedded the flipper tab into the back of that as well, is as you flip it, just make sure your finger makes it past the back end of that hump there, or else it's actually going to get in the way of the blade fully closing. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. But the action itself, nothing to sneeze at for sure. Next up, we've got a new version of the Yorkie, which is a Ray Laconico design. This one comes in about $119 right now. Blade is just over 2.5 inches. We've got M390 in this case with the black coating, nice and smooth, so it's not going to impede your slicing, and that's appreciated since you got that nice full flat grind here as well. Black micarta in this case, black canvas with the milled titanium pocket clip there on the back as well. And we've got an inset liner lock there on the front so that it folds up nicely. You don't have a ton of extra visual clutter from the side. Very minimal overall, actually. Just two screws here at the back on those posts right there. The inset liners are also coated black, so they're not reflecting too much. Just overall a very subtle carry, coming in at a very handy little size. Put together extremely well, as you'd expect from a Kizer, and as all the Yorkies have been so far. All right, next up, we've got another entry into the big old $50 D2 flipper genre. In this case, actually just over. For some reason, Bestech likes to price a bunch of theirs at $52, $2 extra bucks, but I think it really does fit into that genre, both stylistically and fit and finish wise, with like the CIVIVIs and the CJRBs out there in the world. And out of all their $52 D2 flippers, this one is amongst my favorites, I think. The Swordfish is really nice, a few others I really like, but this is the Komodo. We've got a D2 blade, like I said, about 3 3/8 of an inch. Nice modified Wharncliffe here with that high flat grind. Both a powerful cutter that's going to have some decent efficiency as well when you're slicing through or pushing through materials. I really like the handle in this case, though. It's got a very ergonomically thought out handle. A little bit of contour to it, yes, but more of a type of shape that you might expect to see on a fixed blade, and as such, it feels very good in my hands. I got all 4 of my fingers on there, no problem. And with that little bit of a swell out, there's not any extra swell in the width department right here at the widest point of the handle, but it still feels very nice. The liner lock holds it nice and secure. You've got the deep carry pocket clip on the right side only, and flipping action's good, but like I said, I've been practicing my middle finger flick for you folks out there. it was okay. It wasn't my best, but it works pretty well thanks to that thumb cutout right there. Just another cool entry. A few different color options. This is the beige and black G10. There's a green and black as well as an orange and black if you want to be a little bit flashier. Speaking of flashier, we've got the newest in the line of pink-handled Spydercos. This, of course, is the Delica, now with an S30V blade on this pink version, coming in at $122.50 right now. And part of the purchase price of that is actually going to go to charity. Goes to the Pink Heels charity that Spyderco supports through the sale of these knives. So it's a good cause as well. Also, if you're not into pink, but you are into dyeing your blade handles or your knife handles with some RIT dye, the pink wouldn't be a bad foundation either for doing some stuff with. And then you get that cool S30V blade that gives you a nice bump over the normal VG10, which is still a good steel, but you know, S30V's got powder construction. Got to have that powder. But other than that, I mean, it's a Delica. It's everything we've come to expect and know and love. 3-inch blade, so you can take it most anywhere, but you've still got a nice full handle length. It's going to work for righties or lefties, no problem, thanks to the 4-position clip, the mid-mounted backlock, and the easy one-handed opening. And you've still got that nice full flat grind for some excellent slicing capabilities. It's a Delica. Everyone's got to have at least one of these in their collection, at least at one point in time or another. And if you don't have one yet, maybe do this one. It's for a good cause, after all. That's what you can tell your significant other in your life, that you're supporting charity with your purchase right there. All right, next up, we've got a straight razor from Boker, well known, of course, for making their straight razors. This is a Damascus curly birch with the French head pattern on it. A Damascus blade, as you can see as well, a stainless Damascus. And this guy is coming in at about $450 right now, so definitely one of the higher end options that they make. Now this is one of the German-made Bokers. This isn't one of their imported designs, and this actually is a Damasteel blade as well, so it's a powdered Damascus blade. Like I said, you got to have that powder. So you've got some pretty high performance, which may not be, I don't know, it's kind of an interesting choice for a razor, but yeah, what do I know? I've never, as you can tell, I'm not really very good at shaving, so, but I'm sure it will work. And super, super thin whisper of an edge. I mean, that's the thing you gotta love about a properly constructed straight razor. And, you know, when it comes to Boker's German-made straight razors, I mean, they're amongst the best in the world. It's just fantastically ground, really nicely put together, and definitely an heirloom piece for sure. All right, next up, we've got a big ol' honkin' fixed blade, a new FOBOS. This is the Tier 1C, and these guys come in about $330 right now. For that, you're getting about a 6.5-inch blade of 3V, which I have to admit is pretty much one of my favorite steels going out there, especially on a larger heavy-duty fixed blade, because you got a ton of toughness here, good bit of edge retention as well, and it's not as hard to sharpen as some of the other particle steels out there. At least that's been my experience. For the amount of effort it takes to sharpen, you're getting a lot more performance than you would think. Some of the others, other high wear resistant steels out there take a little bit more, effort in sharpening. They'll last longer as well, but something about the cross section of where this sits, from the amount of effort to the amount of edge holding you get, I really like it. And of course, super high toughness, especially on a thick blade like this guy. I mean, we're about a 1/4 inch on this guy right here. Yeah, 0.26. So definitely a beefy boy that is ready to throw down. And we've got a convex blade geometry here with a secondary edge, so it's going to be a very durable grind as well. And some interesting grinds here at the top, a little bit of a swedge, as well as a swedged relief here that's going to remove a little bit of drag there perhaps. And of course on the back here, you can see you've got some pretty aggressive jimping going on, and a small semicircle here which has a bit of a crisp edge, whereas the rest of the spine does not. So you can keep those parts comfortable while still having a point to strike a fire steel if you wanted to use this as an outdoor blade, which you certainly could do. It has maybe not as full of a handle, but you could probably see this as a competitor to something like the SE6 perhaps. A little bit of a different beast, but you know, it's kind of in the ballpark. Handles here, micarta with red liners, and there are a few different micarta options and a few different liner options for each of the different micartas that we've got right now. The green and white, green with white liners, I think looks pretty cool also. Handle feels good to me. You've got a nice finger guard there at the front for your protection, plus the choil there for choking up. The jimping, I like how broad it is. It's not real bitey on your bare hands, but it's going to give you that traction, and I think it's going to be even better if you're wearing gloves, because it's still going to be effective when wearing those bits of hand protection. And there on the back, protruding pommel. No sharp or crisp spots here. It's more for just concentrating your force for thumping on things. As for the sheath, I actually haven't been able to take it out of the plastic, but it is leather. We've got a lot of different attachment options going on. And there's gonna be better pictures of this on the website as well, so you can scope those out if you're interested. Very cool blades. All right, last but not least, we've got a legion of new entries into Viper's Sakura line of kitchen knives. Not so much new patterns, but new woods. First up, we've got an olive wood handle here, which you can now get on their full-size chef's knife, 8.5 inches of blade there. These are really cool knives, actually. It's got more of a Western-inspired blade profile. You've got a lot of belly here, and one of the things, if you've been watching this channel a long time, as I talk about chef knives, one of the things I'm really critical of is the heel area. I like it to be flat, but not so flat that it clunks down on a cutting board, which pretty much every knife out there does. This guy, however, I'll just really gently show you, has a real nice, real gentle rock going on. Combined with that broad belly up there, this is going to be one of the champs of the Western style of rocking cuts that is so prevalent. I mean, I love the blade shape and profile here overall. It's a Nitro B steel, good choice for the kitchens. It's decently tough and is going to take a nice fine edge. And you've got a nice crowned spine on it as well. So it's comfortable no matter how you're choking up on it, no matter what type of grips you're utilizing for any slicing or anything like that. Really nice. And the price on them, just under $100 too for this, the premier of the lineup. So it's decently priced as well. It's not an affordable kitchen knife. It's not a cheap kitchen knife, but certainly worth the money, I think. You've also got this faux bolstered kind of hammered pattern here that adds a little bit of visual interest. And when you're doing the standard kind of chef pinch grip, gives you a little extra texture there as well, a little extra grip to hold on to, because that is kind of the proper grip for you, as opposed to kind of the gorilla grip on a handle like this, which is decently comfortable. It's not the most comfortable in the world when you're doing that, but again, purpose-driven design, that's not what you're really going to be doing with this knife handle most of the time. In addition to that, we've also got some more Bokote wood options. This one right here, they call it a Santoku. I wouldn't necessarily call it a Santoku. It's kind of a hybrid shape, but I don't care what you call it. I actually think they're really cool also. A little bit under 8 inches of blade length here. Again, a nice rocking profile, just like that chef knife. Same features otherwise, just with that nice Bokote wood there that looks really cool. It almost looks like tiger wood or something like that. Just has a really nice look. In addition to that, we've got a zircote wood. This is on, they're calling it their carving knife. This is essentially a 5.5 inch blade with kind of a slicey profile, but it's more just, I think, like a general kitchen utility. Not so much a rocking cutter, but there is enough length there. You could push it into some like mincing cuts and herb chopping cuts if you wanted to, or just, general kitchen utility. With a really cool handle here that's more reminiscent of just kind of like old school hardwoods in that respect. So it's, if you're looking to kind of expand some of your collection that has something like that, this wouldn't look super out of place, but it would certainly be a nice upgrade. In addition to that, if you're an enterprising individual and knew how to make a leather sheath or kydex sheath yourself, I feel like this would make a really nice hunting knife as well. You've got a lot of sweep there. You could certainly do some nice slicing and animal processing with that. I don't know. That's a challenge. Someone out there do that. Send us a picture on our Instagram or something. But the other thing you can see here from the back, the two names, Vox and Anso. This is a Jens Anso, Jesper Vakne's collaboration for Viper. And the design's good, the construction's good as well. And we've also got new wood options on their steak knife, which the pair of these comes in for about $125 here. Probably my favorite production level steak knife out there. It's got a great shape, nice and elegant, nice elegant looking handle materials, and it's designed just right, so when you're there on the plate, all it's wanting to do is slice through through that ribeye you've got in front of you. Really like these guys. All right, that's all I've got to show you this week. Make sure to let me know your favorites down there in the comments. I'll be really upset if you don't say those steak knives. I think they're something special. I really like those guys. Meantime, if you want to get your hands on any of these, we'll leave links in the description as always. It'll take you over to the Knife Center. And while you're over there, make sure to sign up for our Knife Rewards program so that when you spend your hard-earned money on one of these knives, you'll earn some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center signing off. See you next time.